Hello and welcome to the 7th episode of Eyes On, Brains Off. I am one of your hosts, Brian, and I just want to take a little bit more of your time before we get into the actual episode to say thank you. Thank you for listening for 7 straight episodes, if you've listened to all of our episodes, or if you're just starting on our series here and it's episode 7, it's the first time you listen to it. Thank you for joining us. We're very excited to have you. Before I get too much further, I would like to thank some people on Chris's behalf as well as my own. These people have just been giving us feedback, and we really appreciate them listening and sticking with the podcast for so long. So without further ado, April and Laura, our girlfriends, thank you for your support and helping us out in what we are looking to do here, because we're doing a thing. And I want to also thank Kelly in Illinois for listening in. She listened to the pilot recently, and hopefully she makes it to 7. I think she will. We got Jeff and Sam in Minnesota. Thank you for your feedback also. We've got Jordan and Joe in Wisconsin, although I do believe Joe's on the East Coast now, but he will always be in Wisconsin in his heart. And then finally, that's it, actually. That's it. I don't know if our parents have picked it up yet. I know mine would have talked to me about my profanity by now, but, we'll get to that. Until then, why don't you enjoy episode 7 of Eyes On, Brains Off.
Welcome to Eyes On, Brains Off, a weekly podcast where we talk about everything we watched in movies, TV, and online video clips. It's your boy, Chris, the narrator, aka Mr. Wearing Khaki Pants again, and I'm throwing it over to my main man, Brian Danger.
Curran? Your energy is so great. I'm so excited to start this week. I am Brian Danger Curran, and I am wearing jeans and a blue V-neck. If we're describing, is that what we're going with, bud?
Well, it's kind of it's a little bit of a play on Donald Glover's Chilidish Gambino has a line in one of his songs off the album Camp, I believe, where he refers to himself as Mr. Talk About Your Dick Again, and so I'm Mr. Wearing Khaki Pants again.
Have you been listening to a lot of Childish Gambino lately?
I have been listening to this one thing which I want to talk about later, which is off his new album, Awaken My Love, which is Redbone, if you're familiar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and are you familiar with how that's become a meme?
I've not. Oh, no, absolutely not. Excuse me?
Yes, so if you go on YouTube, there is, I believe it started with a video, and it might have been on Twitter instead of YouTube, but it started with a video called What Redbone Sounds Like Through a Party Bathroom, House Party Bathroom. And so it's just like a muffled version, and you occasionally hear other kind of muffled people talking and stuff. And then people just took that and ran with it in all these different directions. So it's all Redbone as. And so there's one where it's Redbone as if it were done in the 80s, and it just turns into a Rickroll. And
how am I just hearing about this? I am on the internet every day.
I've only seen it appear somewhere once, but then it popped up in my YouTube suggestions when I was watching a different music video, and it was Redbone Gets Swifty, I believe. And they pretty much used the Redbone beat with the lyrics and vocals from
Swifty.
Yeah.
Take a shit on the floor.
Exactly. And that just over Redbone. And it's awesome.
Not my favorite Rick and Morty episode. Get Swifty. Show me what you got.
Yeah,
good. Not my favorite.
I can see that. I think one of my favorites is the one where they all turn to bugs because Morty tries to use some type of pheromone thing. And
yeah, the one where they Cronenberg the world.
Pretty much. And then the consequences of that episode that show up later are pretty awesome.
Oh, they're phenomenal. I think my favorite episode right now is the one where all of the parasite memory creatures start showing up. It's the first episode with Mr. Poopy Butthole. Ooh-wee, Rick. Can do. And that was definitely a meme that my staff and I used throughout the year when making requests to one another. If someone shot me a text or an email and said, hey, can you get me that report back? Or, hey, did I get that? Or can I take time off? You send them back a picture of Mr. Poopy Butthole saying, can do.
That sounds like a great line of communication you guys got going on there in Montana.
It's all about the expectations you set at the beginning of the year.
How's your week been going otherwise, Brian?
It's been pretty good. We got orientation 2 on campus for the next batch of students that are going to be living with us come August. Let's see here. I had a parent orientation present and a student orientation present. I had very little speaking lines in the parent, and I had more in the student. And my fun fact for the student presentation was that I have a barrel-shaped dog named Martha McFly. I then proceeded to explain what the resident advisor role on campus was, and then following was told by my coworkers that I sounded like I should be working for either a C-rated game show on television or NPR.
Interesting.
And I was very pleased.
So, couple questions. One, you
Go ahead.
You change your fun fact each time with these groups?
I certainly try to. I certainly try to.
Because you're just that full of fun?
No, it's more of a pretentious writer's challenge to myself because I don't write as much anymore. So hey, if I can come up with a fun fact every time there's an orientation, then I'm living up to my degree.
It's good to set the bar to manageable height there, Brian.
I do what I can.
Second question. Did you describe your dog as barrel-shaped?
Oh, yes. My dog is very much barrel-shaped. I adopted her, we're going on 3 years in August, which is awesome. But at the time, she was very overweight and very barrel-shaped, and I was not the only one to describe her that way. I was not the first to describe her that way either.
I don't think I've heard anyone ever describe a dog as shaped like a barrel.
Oh, yeah. You take a look at a French bulldog, that is a barrel-shaped dog right there. And not to say my dog's a barrel-shaped French bulldog. She's not. She's Australian Shepherd mixed with Dachshund. But for some reason, she was shaped like a barrel. We're working on it with plenty of exercise and diet.
Well, I wish you both the best, I guess, in that endeavor then.
Thank you. What about you? How's your week going?
Good. Had another busy weekend, but very good one. I developed a bit of a cold, so apologies if I sound a little weird, listeners. But had big fireworks out here in Madison this weekend, and they had some bands playing beforehand, so had a bunch of people over to my place for some drinks, walked over, saw a band called Saint Motel, which was a very good show, put on a fun free concert for an hour, and then watched some great fireworks right on the lake out here in Madison. Played 18 holes of golf on Sunday, and just a nice, very cool out here in Wisconsin this past weekend.
You're very lucky. It's very not cool up here in Montana.
It was about 55 on Saturday night for those fireworks out here.
Wow.
Yeah, so, but good stuff all around.
Nice, very nice.
And you know what?
How are your allergies this year? I just been meaning to ask. Thought I'd throw it out there.
I don't really have too bad of allergies generally.
Really? Oh man.
How are your allergies, Brian?
Well, I was driving around yesterday. I took the dog for a walk at the dog park, and as I was driving back, there was just a full assault on my face. It was bad. It was eyes and nose, and it didn't feel great. I took a shower immediately afterwards, and that's when I ended up going to the student orientation. So, it sucked. For that one day, it's been fine up until that point, too. Absolutely fine. I'm jealous of you.
Well,
I feel like I'm jealous of you every week for something different. Comedy, music, allergies, weather. It's all there.
I'm living a pretty good life here, Brian. Things things are going pretty swimmingly.
Good.
Like I told you, I went to the doctor, clean bill of health. So,
Ooh, yeah, that is nice.
yeah, all good.
Yeah,
And you know what?
right.
Most importantly of all, watched a lot of good stuff this past week. That I am
Okay, all right.
that I am very excited to talk about with you.
Okay, so I mean, you're excited to talk about it. I want you to talk about it so I can respond to it. What did you watch, Chris?
Well, so we're coming up to the 4th of July in recording time, not in real time, but we're going to take a brief pause to just kind of recollect ourselves. And I thought, this is a good opportunity to kind of close out a couple things I've been talking about for a while on the podcast. So
Are you going to do it? Are we closing Clone Wars?
Finished Clone Wars, finished Preacher, finished Fargo.
Wow. All three.
All three.
That's a hat trick if I ever heard one.
Three, I just had a little bit left in each one, and Sunday after my golf game, I had a good block of time left in the day, and I said, I should really do laundry. And then I said, but you know what else I should really do? Finish all this stuff I've been talking about since we started this podcast.
No one's going to care that the shirt I'm wearing at work smells a little bit more. Everybody else is doing it too.
Exactly. So, just some final thoughts on all three of these programs. Clone Wars finished. It's got this last 13 episode season that was released only on Netflix, and it's kind of a mixed bag. It's there are a couple fun storylines left over, but you can also tell that they didn't have a whole lot more story to tell. They do some really wacky, in-depth stuff about like where the Force comes from and all this different stuff. And if you're into that, it's great. But for me, Star Wars has always been more about the adventure side of it more than the nuts and bolts of how everything works in that universe. So I would say if you're, it's definitely a worthwhile watch if you're into Star Wars. If you're even less into Star Wars than I am, but are still looking for something to watch. Seasons 3, 4, and 5 are the strongest in terms of story arcs. And even then, I would look online and just get some recommendations for different arcs because the show is blocked out really nicely. So you can find a good arc that's 4 episodes long to just dive into and bounce around without getting too lost with the rest of the continuity.
Is that canon? Are the Clone Wars canon?
I believe they are still. I believe the movies and the Clone Wars are the only things that remained canon, as well as, the new Rebels show, which is Disney owned to begin with. But I think they kept Clone Wars as canon.
Okay. Got it. Oh, God, I feel like I had a second follow-up question for this, but I don't remember what it was. Crap.
Okay. Well, maybe it'll come to you. Let me keep going here. Preacher finished first season of Preacher, just started the second, which I held off watching because I didn't want to muddy what I was going to be talking about here. But first season of Preacher is a fun ride. It's a very weird show that doesn't really have anything like it else on television. But as I've said repeatedly, it's hard. There isn't anything to really pull you through it. Each episode is fun to watch. And the last 2 to 3 episodes kind of pick up that pace and tie everything together nicely. But I've read, as the second season is about to start, they've been saying that it's very much the first season was set up so that they could get to the second season, which I've heard a lot about a lot of AMC shows where, things really get going in the second season, and you can really feel that in the first season of Preacher, where it's just a lot of still really just trying to figure things out and a definite endpoint in mind, but just trying to figure out the best way to get there, which sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. What I like about that show is that it's somewhat similar to Mad Men, where it's kind of, for the most part, has a very serious, even-handed tone, but has these little moments of weirdness and humor that make me laugh out loud in ways that a lot of shows don't.
Like when the guy's foot got ran over by the lawnmower in The Office.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or
that was
like
a good time.
in Preacher, there's one of the episodes towards the end just starts with this long shot of like a street, and you're just watching people walk by, and you're like, why? What are we doing? And then all of a sudden you see the main Preacher character just bolt across the screen, and then all these cop cars are chasing him, and you're like, oh, like that's kind of fun, like that unexpected little twist of stuff.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, I talked about it last time, but, it might be time to get back into Preacher or, try to figure something out with it where I can watch it all at once, because I don't know if I want to necessarily, I don't know, I got to figure that one out.
Yeah, I would maybe, you would do, I would say only half of the season is critical to watch. And I couldn't necessarily name the episodes because they kind of all blended together, but it's like the first two and the last two for sure, and then there's one or two in the middle maybe that I would say, but there are probably some you could just skip over and be okay not seeing.
You know who else did essentially a first season prologue for their show? It was Westworld on HBO last summer. Same kind of thing. It was just a lot of setting up for what was going to come later on in the seasons. And it really, I don't know if it worked well yet because we don't know what season 2 is going to yield. But at the same time, Westworld was very enjoyable when it was on. And if you have the means, definitely worth a watch because it's kind of creepy, but it holds your attention really well. It's almost like it's almost like Silence of the Lambs.
Interesting. I only saw the pilot episode of that because I did not have the means to watch the rest of it, but I'm excited to dig deeper into that at some point.
We should have the Eyes on Brains Off HBO account just for our viewing to expand.
Yes.
To expand what we can watch because I am currently without HBO as well.
Oh man, that's what we do. We got to start pooling our resources more, Brian. We'll get the new Hulu live TV. Have you heard about that one?
Are we going to get it without commercials, or are we going to wait till we have sponsors?
Ah man, we should probably wait till we have sponsors, right?
Yeah, we should.
Balls in your
be
court,
more
Hulu.
responsible. Can we get CISO?
Well, CISO might be going away. They just laid off a bunch of people, so yeah.
Ooh, that's not good. I haven't watched any CISO, but I saw what it was trying to do when it first fired up because they had a lot of advertisements on Hulu, of all places. And I just thought to myself, God, I'm probably never going to watch that, but I really hope they make it. Because it seemed to be very comedian-ran. And I don't know if that's got anything to do with the success of it or not, because not all comedians make great business people when it comes to managing things,
Very true.
So, I hope it works out.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, there's some fun stuff on there that I would like to get to eventually, like Jonah Ray's show and My Brother and Me show, Bajillion Dollar Properties. Take My Wife. They're doing some original stand-up specials on there too. That would be fun to check out. So hopefully they can figure out a way to continue to work, or some of those shows can get grandfathered into some other streaming service so that doesn't go away.
Yeah. Well,
and
nice.
then we'll finish the third season of Fargo. Probably the weakest of the 3 seasons that there are of that show, but still very well produced television, very well acted. This one was a little more meandering and not as tight as previous seasons have felt, and had a very ambiguous ending where, I don't know, I like things a little more definitive, and it didn't quite work for me as much as I would have liked it to. But I still really like it as a show. Again, the anthology series take on it, just making it different every season. But I think they really just need to find a way to break out a little bit more. Because I think they've explored about as much as they can in this current geographical region. One of the better episodes of the season was when one of the characters went to Los Angeles for an entire episode. And that just showed like you could still take the same sensibilities that this show thrives on and put them in a different setting that helps keep things fresh.
Fargo, I haven't watched any of Fargo, which I know is a mistake, and I absolutely need to rectify as soon as possible. And that might be why I get Hulu back again, solely for that show, Casual, and a few others that are on there that I can't remember off the top of my head. But when it comes to Fargo, I'm always impressed by the cast that they get to play in TV series, because I remember celebrities talking about it in a podcast. I think it was a Nerdist podcast where they were talking about how movie stars don't make the transition into television shows and how that was starting to come about. And I think Fargo has done a great job demonstrating that recently on FX, because you get a lot of people who are typically movie stars into that show. I mean, you've had Billy Bob Thornton in the first season with Martin Freeman, and you've had what's her name, Mary Jane from Kirsten Dunst. Kirsten Dunst, and was that the second or third season?
Second.
Okay, perfect. And then who was in this third season of note? I didn't get a chance to see the full cast, but I know there were some big names in it.
Yeah, big names in this one were Ewan McGregor, and then Mary Elizabeth Winstead from Scott Pilgrim and Live Free or Die Hard.
Live Free or Die Hard was the only other movie you could name Mary Elizabeth Winstead in.
Yes.
She was in 12 Cloverfield Lane.
Oh, yeah. I didn't like that movie that much, though, so that's...
Really?
It was...
Well, why not?
I mean, it was fine. It's a fine movie, but I don't know. It just... And, like, John Goodman's fantastic in that movie, but... I don't know, just something... It's like a really good one-time watch, but I don't feel like I would never need to see that movie again.
All right, that actually makes a lot of sense. I was really happy when that came on to Amazon Prime, because it's a very good not free streaming, but, the streamers that you have. Whether that is, Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu, whatever. If it's on there and, you got the opportunity to watch it. It's a good one.
Yeah. So those are the big things.
Okay.
Those are the big things I watched. I also watched a little bit of Friends. My girlfriend was in town this weekend, and we had a little downtime, very little downtime. So threw on an episode of Justice League Unlimited, because she really liked Wonder Woman when we saw it the other week. So tried to find a Wonder Woman-centric episode of JLU, which went okay, I think. I think it went all right.
All right, yeah.
Watched a few more episodes of Casual, but I'll hold off talking about that until I get to the end of that season. And then I had this dilemma, Brian, because, I had this big chunk of time Sunday night, and I finished Fargo, Preacher, and Clone Wars in that chunk of time that I had. But I still had 2 more days until we were recording a podcast. And
that's a lot of time.
I needed to find something to watch to fill that time that I didn't need to pay a ton of attention to, but also something that, I'd already watched or I'd already started watching, so that I wasn't diving into something brand new to talk, because we already had so much to talk about. So I went back to a little show that we talked about a couple weeks ago called Zoo.
Oh, God.
And let me tell you, Brian, we should have required ourselves to watch one more episode, because...
No!
Why? Because, holy crap, this show gets better and more... It doesn't get better, but it gets more insane, which makes it better. Literally...
It's like you're still on acid, but the trip's really good.
Well, it's like, I don't know if you remember, but at the end of the second episode of that show, there's like this... The French lady starts talking to a French guy who's like, I need your help with something. And that guy is pretty much Nick Fury in the Zooniverse.
Oh no.
And so he's the guy who recruits all the other characters, and by the end of the third episode, they're all together and working on figuring out what's going on with these animals.
Oh my god.
So
Yeah, because the two guys were heading to Japan to pick up Adam Pally's love interest in Happy Ending's father's notes.
Yep.
And yeah, jeez. I'm glad we stopped.
And their plane gets attacked by bats.
Of course it does.
Other fun things that happened: a prison gets taken over by a pack of angry wolves, who one of the prisoners might be communicating with telepathically, and and then in the fourth episode, I guess not that much happened that was as exciting animal-wise. Oh, there was a side trip to Antarctica to visit some characters we've never met before, and they were at some remote research station that was being attacked by bats who flew to Antarctica to cover up their solar panels so that they would freeze to death.
Why didn't they get the penguins to do it? It's closer. They're more acclimated to the climate.
Well, because the solar panels were propped up on these kind of stilt poles, and the penguins couldn't get up there. You had to get the bats.
I've seen Madagascar, Chris. I know how crafty penguins can be when they want to be.
Well, these aren't Madagascaran penguins, Brian. They're the Antarctic version.
Oh no, I'm not going back to Zoo, and I haven't gone back to I Love Dick either. If we're gonna revisit the things that we've already watched, or the series that we've started watching, I haven't felt artsy enough to go back to I Love Dick, and I feel like that's the kind of mindset you need to be in if you're gonna watch it again. I want to watch it again, but it's like Les Mis. I am never in the mood to watch Les Mis.
Brian, you should always be in the mood to watch Les Mis. Les Mis is the best.
I disagree. I feel like I should always be in the mood to watch Young Frankenstein, but not Les Mis. They're two very different things, and that's just how my brain's wired.
Well, I think you got some faulty wiring up there.
Oh, yeah?
But
boy.
I
think this is our first big fight on the show.
Well, if you're gonna start trash talking Les Mis, then yeah, we're gonna.
I'm not trash talking Les Mis.
We're gonna bring out the fisticuffs.
I absolutely respect Les Mis, and I have the utmost reverence for it. I've just never seen it because I'm never in the mood.
What? You've never even seen Les Mis?
I've never seen Les Mis.
You've never seen the movie and or the play Les Mis?
That is correct. Nor have I read the book.
Oh my god!
Is that important? Should I also read the book?
I don't know. I haven't read the book.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I hear how great Les Mis is, and yeah, I can't bring myself to watch it.
Oh, it's so good. Make that a date night movie.
I really should. We've been struggling with the date night movies to figure out what we're gonna watch. We try to avoid doing date night movies with streaming services because that can get out of sync really quickly if someone's got a bad connection. And we've been solely going to the local Redbox. But with a library card that I have, and she also has down in Salt Lake, it shouldn't be that difficult to find a copy of Les Mis, I guess.
I'll let her know. I would think not.
Hey, Siri, remind me to suggest Les Mis as a date night movie with April.
Okay, Brian.
Okay, I'll remind you to suggest Les Mis as a date movie with April. When would you like to be reminded?
Tomorrow.
Okay, I'll remind you.
Thanks, Siri.
That was fun.
Yeah. Okay. See, now you know I'm committed.
Okay. That's all I got on TV. I watched a few movies. Again, my girlfriend was down this weekend. We got through Furious 7, so 8 is coming out on DVD next month. But
how'd she like Furious 7?
I think she liked it.
That's the one with Statham, right? That's the last Paul Walker one.
That's the last Paul Walker one. And I was like,
got it.
I was trying to tell her, I was like, I don't think you're emotionally prepared for what's about to happen in this movie with Paul Walker. And she wasn't really taking me seriously. and then the movie was ending, and I was near tears, as I always am when I watch the end of that movie. And she was just kind of like, yeah, that was good. And I was like, well,
Oh,
but no, it's heartbreaking.
You're going to have to break up with her.
Because he's dead. He's dead now.
That's like the How I Met Your Mother Star Wars episode with Sarah Chalk.
It's not exactly the same as that.
It sounds... You get teary-eyed, Chris.
Do you?
You love that movie.
I like Paul Walker, and I appreciate the way they sent him off. But if you look at his character's whole arc throughout that movie, and then you realize Paul Walker also has a kid that he left behind, and this whole movie is about him being a good dad, and being, oh man, it's killer. It's a killer every time, Brian.
Okay. All right. Hold on a second. What is your movie that is not necessarily a deal breaker, but you care a whole lot if your partner likes it too? You know, it's very important for your partner to like the thing that you like. What movie is that for you?
Well,
is it Les Mis?
No, it's not Les Mis. That's for podcast partners only. I guess like Wet Hot, American Summer would be one, but we've already reached an impasse on that, and we're still dating, so I guess I can't really count that.
Okay.
I don't know. Fast and Furious would be kind of a big one. To me, it's not. There's this show called October Road, and they bring up this question, and the make or break movie for that, I believe, that they use is Dirty Dozen, and it might be a Western. I could be wrong, but it's like some older movie, and the guy is trying to get his girlfriend into it, and the girlfriend like goes up to get popcorn during the movie, and he's like, oh, do you want me to pause it because it's the first time they're seeing it? She's like, no, that's fine. And he was super offended by that because he's like, this is like my favorite thing, and I want you to enjoy every minute of it with me, and you're just like, whatever. And I think that's kind of overblown. I kind of got it the first time I saw it, and I was like a teenager.
You connected with it really, like, yeah, that is how relationships should be.
Right. Well, no, but that's how relationships would be. But I could understand the offense he took. And so, but now it's more so for me, it's if you're willing to share it with me and it's not your thing, then that's okay. As long as you're willing to give it a try, and then as long as you're okay if it's not your thing, that you're okay that it's my thing still.
Okay, so that mutual, like, understanding.
Yeah.
Like, this is my thing, and that's okay, and we're both okay with this.
Yes, we're both okay that this is something I'm into, even if you're not as into it as I am.
Got it.
What would yours be?
It's hard to say, because there's just so many great movies out there that I love that just give me like a lot of good energy and a lot of happiness, I guess. And I don't know if I've come across. Hold on a second, let me think here. And by the way, I don't think we should edit this pause at all.
Oh, no?
No. I don't know why I'm blanking right now. Big Fish is a really good movie.
Big Fish is a good movie, but that's the hill you're gonna die on.
That's not it. Yeah, that's not my hill.
And that's the thing. That's where I come at it from too, where it's like, one of my favorite movies is Life Aquatic, but I'm not gonna, if
that's not a good hill to die on.
Right, exactly. Like, and even with something like Wet Hot, like people either love that movie or they think it's the dumbest thing in the world. And so, which is, like, you can see where both people come from. I find it amazing. But, you can see where people who that type of humor just doesn't appeal to them.
Yeah,
come
and
from.
you know, now that I'm thinking about it, one of the things that is one of those movies for me is, well, I mean, it's the Cornetto trilogy from Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, and Edgar Wright, with Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End. I mean, those are three fantastic movies. I think World's End is probably the lesser of the three, but still pretty good. Not
Yeah.
my favorite.
It's
but-
weird. It's like it's not my favorite either. And I'll go back and watch it. I'm like, I don't know why I don't have the strong as strong of feelings for this movie, because it's still a really good movie. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
really well put together, funny, great cast. But something about it
It's-
just doesn't.
It's not like The Dark Knight Rises, where there was like a lot of anticipation because it was the third Cornetto trilogy and everybody was really expecting, you know, greatness. They saw Shaun of the Dead and that was kind of like a sleeper hit. Then Hot Fuzz came out and everybody recognized that Hot Fuzz was great. And then there was a little bit of expectation with World's End. And it wasn't that we were let down. I don't know. I think by The World's End, maybe we were tired of it because it is some of the same humor. And I'm not talking about the reoccurring fence jump, but I think you're a little more used to it by the time you get to The World's End if you watch them in order, because it's that dry British humor. It's, you know, it's working off the connotation of meaning for words, and you know, it's good. But Shaun of the Dead to me is so tightly and well written that it's one of my favorite comedies. And I think Shaun of the Dead's a little bit more, it's got more of a broader appeal than Life Aquatic, although Life Aquatic is another one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I think that you're exactly on point. I think with The World's End, too, if we can just go back to that for a second, is I think part of the problem is if you look at Shaun of the Dead and you look at Hot Fuzz, you are immersed in what those movies are about very quickly. You know, it becomes a zombie movie very quickly. It becomes, you know, this kind of
Suspense thriller.
subverted action cop movie very quickly. Where with World's End, it's kind of this buddy comedy to start with, and then it very gradually kind of becomes this more outward sci-fi thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a slower build. But then again, I mean, Hot Fuzz... No, you nail it on the head, because Hot Fuzz is a slow build to the action, but it's playing the cop police roles of it very well throughout the entirety of it.
Yes.
And then Shaun of the Dead is a zombie movie within, what, the first half hour?
Oh, probably, I mean, first like 10 minutes. I mean, he wakes up the next morning and it starts pretty much.
Yeah. That's right. Because then, yeah. Again, it's just so well written with Shaun of the Dead, because there's so many little things that you can miss on the first watch through, and you can pretty much catch something new every time.
Oh, yeah. And another reason I like Wet Hot American Summer is you can watch, you know, I still am finding jokes in that movie even after watching it. I've been watching that movie for 10 years and I'm still finding new stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Couple other just quick movie hits here. Rewatched World War Z just kind of randomly.
Okay.
Which I think I like that movie a little bit better than when I saw it in theaters. I think it's a better, like, it's probably a good movie to like have on cable and kind of pop into on a random weekend afternoon, and where you don't need to watch all of it.
I'm sure it was very popular when it was making its FX run a couple years ago.
Well, it's actually how I watched it, is on the FX app. It was one of the streaming movies. But
Yeah.
the other movie I watched was A Hologram for the King.
Oh, did you now?
Starring Tom Hanks.
I heard that was a really bad movie.
It wasn't really bad. It was not good. It wasn't. It was just weird. It looked like it had been edited to death. Like, it definitely, or had like gone through some reshoots, because there's some really just haphazard parts of it, and you're going through about half the movie, and you're like, okay, I'm not really sure what this movie is going to be about in the end, or like what the ultimate goal is. And I've sat through movies like that where you don't really tie it all together until the last 10 minutes, and then you're like, oh, like, whoa, like this movie's great, like totally worth the wait, and like, you know, not confusion, but just not really understanding what's happening. This movie, it just kind of ended as like, I don't even know how to describe it. Is like just Tom Hanks plays a guy who goes to the Middle East and is working for a tech company that's trying to secure a deal with one of these Middle Eastern countries. Is it Saudi Arabia? I think it's Saudi Arabia. And they're, you know, trying to build a Dubai-like city, and he's trying to sell them some technology for when they build the city. But he's also going through a divorce, and he doesn't have enough money, and, you know, he's doing this job, but he doesn't really like the job. And it's, you know, you're like, oh, is this movie about him trying to find himself? And is it about him, like, kind of taking more control of his life and all these things? And, you know, you're trying to apply different tropes that you've seen before to it. And it, at different points, it looks like, okay, yes, this is what it's going to be about. And then it kind of just drops it and is like, well, no, we were only going to do this for 5 minutes. And then we're going to move on to the next thing. So it was short.
The city doesn't get built. He becomes estranged from his daughter. He gets divorced and goes bankrupt. It just goes complete opposite direction.
It's just, it ended up being a lot more, or like a lot less profound than I was hoping it was going to be. So it looked like it was building to something more profound than what it ended up doing, because in the end it was just like he fell in love with a woman in the Middle East and he ends up staying in the Middle East. And you're like, okay, was that the goal? Like, was this like what his problem was the whole time, and this was what he needed? And there are all these different subplots that just don't go anywhere either. And again, it just, to me, feels like a lot of stuff got edited out from what the final cut of the movie ended up being.
Well, it sounds like it's a movie about a guy who could never find his place in a lot of different ways and then found his place in the Middle East.
Yeah, but even then, that's not really what it was about. It was like, I would really, so it's based on a book by Dave Eggers, who I think his books, for whatever reason, just have a very hard time getting translated to the screen. And I would love to go back.
What else has he written?
So he wrote The Circle, which came out as a movie this past spring and got bashed.
Another Tom Hanks movie,
Was
no less.
Right. And then, I don't know, he wrote a book, nonfiction book called Zaytun, I believe, which is very good. It's a very good book about a Muslim man who stayed in New Orleans during Katrina and kind of just follows his journey as the city gets flooded and aftermath and all this stuff. Very, very good. I actually saw him speak at a conference I went to in college, and he was a great, great speaker. And he's written some other... He's got some book out right now. I can't remember what it's called, but it's about like this couple that moves to Alaska or something that's supposed to be very good. So, great writer, but for whatever reason, between this movie and The Circle, just people can't get what makes the book so compelling translated onto the screen well.
That's tough because I feel like Stephen King has that problem in a lot of Hollywood movies and adaptations for his work, specifically the Dome television show, which was on CBS for a couple seasons, or was it on CBS for a season and then Amazon for its second season only?
It was on CBS, and then I think they had some deal with Amazon where it was like next day it was available on Amazon.
Yeah. And I watched that entire first season and a couple of the episodes from the second season. And granted, I haven't read The Dome, but I know that there's no way the TV show picked up everything that was going on in the book.
Yeah.
Picked up on everything that was going on in the book and, translated it properly either. And, well, where else have we seen that problem with Stephen King? I'm worried about that with The Dark Tower. Not that I really like The Dark Tower, or I didn't necessarily enjoy that a whole lot, or as much as some people did. However, still worried about it.
I'm worried about it too, but I'm cautiously optimistic that it's going to be distinct enough from the book that it doesn't need to draw that direct comparison that people are worried about it leaving certain stuff out.
Got it. I mean, you're a decent Stephen King fan, aren't you?
Yeah, and going back to Under the Dome, I mean, I read Under the Dome, and I watched maybe the first half of the first season of the show. It just never really did much for me in general. But the book is very good, but I think one of the things Stephen King has trouble with is all of his supernatural stuff is very good. His sci-fi stuff is kind of crap. And Under the Dome is sci-fi, and the ending is kind of crap. After probably, I would say 80% of a book that rivals The Stand in terms of cast of characters and story building, but the resolution just is nowhere near as strong as something like The Stand.
Well, The Stand's neither science fiction or supernatural, isn't it? Isn't that just real world based?
No, that's supernatural. Because
okay.
Yeah. It's post-apocalyptic with supernatural bent to it.
Got it. Okay. All right. You know, I would love to see, I don't know if I would want it to be a short film or short film or maybe a mini series, but I would love to see some kind of adaptation of The Long Walk by Stephen King. That would be a good one. Because I think that's an easy read, first of all. So as far as Stephen King's books go, if I were to recommend something to people, I would recommend A Long Walk first, because you can get through it in a couple weeks. Not like It, which takes fucking forever. Like, great book, but it is exhausting.
Yeah, and one of the few books of Stephen King that has legitimately, Stephen King is a horror master, but I view it all through a fantasy lens. So it never really gets to me, but it is terrifying. Yeah.
But where was I with this? Oh yeah, A Long Walk. I think that would be really easy to do. I don't know if it's a long enough book to make it. I don't want a TV series out of it at all, because that's going to get too drawn out. But I don't know. I think like a small movie or a miniseries would work well with it.
I feel like you can make it into a pretty tight 90-minute movie.
Yeah.
Low budget.
CBS,
too.
get back on the horse. Let's go.
There you go.
Let's figure this out. All right.
Brian, I've been
nice.
I've been doing most of the talking here. What have you got for us? Where do you want to go next?
There's good reason for that. And I don't know what necessarily happened in the last week, but I just did not get around to watching a whole lot of anything other than YouTube. And if we're looking back at it, the only thing that I watched on Netflix was Oh Hello with Nick Kroll and John Mulaney, which we will get into in a bit, because that was my makeup for missing it last week. The only movies, though, that I watched were 2 date night movies. With April. The first one was Patterson, starring Adam Driver.
I was looking through my Amazon last night, and I almost watched that instead of Hologram for the King, but Hologram was shorter, so I decided to watch that.
Well, I'm really kind of kicking myself because I didn't realize that Patterson was on Amazon Prime, and April and I rented it through Redbox.
Oh, jeez.
So, that went well, but it actually had unintended benefits, because I ended up getting a free movie rental out of it, and I went back a day or two later. So we watched Patterson on Friday night, and Patterson was okay.
So give me a brief synopsis of just what the setup of that movie is.
Adam Driver
Yep.
is named Patterson.
Oh.
And he lives in Patterson, New Jersey, driving a bus.
All right. The fact that he lived in a town called Patterson, I did not know.
And they kind of address it. So it was like, oh, is your name really Patterson? And you just go, yep. And he's a really nice guy. And he's kind of charming and unassuming and, just kind of aloof going through the world and whatnot. His wife, I think, is kind of terrible, and I don't like her very much. But she turns out okay in the end. But basically, it's a week in the life of Patterson from, I think it's either Sunday to Sunday or it's Monday to Monday, something along those lines. And he drives a bus 5 days out of those weeks, and he just kind of writes poetry. And every now and then you just get the inner thoughts of Patterson in a poetic form, and you just kind of think to yourself, okay, cool. Good poem, Patterson. Really enjoy the one about the matchbox. What's tomorrow going to yield? And that's it. So
maybe you should put your thoughts and feelings about Patterson into a poem, Brian, and you could read it to us next time.
Jeez. Okay.
And that would help with your creative writing and making you feel like you've done something good with your English degree.
Next episode.
Make those notes. You don't want to tell Siri to remind you about that?
Hey, Siri, remind me to write a poem about Patterson tomorrow at 10 o'clock. I don't think she picked it up. I'll just write the note. Prepare a poem about Patterson. Okay. We're going to get this right. Anyway, that's it. That's all I have about Patterson.
Seems to sum it up.
If I had to categorize it, and I categorize Zodiac like this too. It's a good movie to do your laundry to. If you have to iron a shitload of shirts, throw Patterson on. Enjoy it that way. But don't think you're going to get a whole lot of like revelation out of it. Because it's a movie about a poet in New Jersey. It's not anything that's going to strike an epiphany or inspire you to go out and change the world. It's just a movie about a guy.
Sure. You want to know what my recommendation for what to throw on while you're doing your laundry?
Absolutely.
Zoo.
God damn it.
Led you right into that one,
Never.
Brian.
Never. All right. So, like I said, I got another free rental from Redbox, so I went back on Sunday. Told April I was doing the same thing, and we got the Lego Batman movie.
Nice.
And that was a hell of a lot of fun. I love those movies, the Lego movie and the Lego Batman movie, because the humor's a lot of fun, and they poke a lot of fun at everything, but on top of that, just the way that they use the animation and Legos is phenomenal. They use a Lego for everything. And I think that attention to detail is special, and it should be worth noting. And it is for me.
Yeah, I love that movie too. I had a ton of fun watching it. I would love watching it again and just like spend a day where I just put it in my DVD player and just watch it for 3 seconds and then press pause and then just walk up to my TV screen and just look at everything and then really like fully appreciate all the little Easter eggs and everything that they throw in there, and then watch another 3 seconds and do the same thing and just really appreciate the whole thing.
I think one of my favorite things about that movie, two of my favorite things about that movie, one, they had really great montages or short montages that showed Batman through the years in Lego form.
Yes.
And they nailed it with that. The second great thing about that, which is probably a lesser known fact, and I hope you love this too, but they got Billy D. Williams to play Two-Face.
Yes.
And that is fan-fucking-nominal.
Well, and you know why that is significant, right?
Yeah, he played Harvey Dent in the Val Kilmer Batman movie. Or not the Val Kilmer, the Michael Keaton.
Yes. And was supposed to play...
Which is why it's so fan-great.
Yeah, and was supposed to play Two-Face eventually in the third movie, and then things got switched around, and he got screwed out of that.
Yeah. Sad world.
Yeah.
It's a sad world. But, those are the movies I watch. The only real TV that I watch throughout the week, I'm going to come out and say it every now and then. I will go online and I will search out a good anime cartoon. And this last week, I was getting back into Attack on Titan Season 2 because I let that build up for a couple episodes so I could watch a couple episodes. And it's a very good show, and they kill off main characters faster than Game of Thrones, and it's awesome. It is absolutely fantastic because it comes out of nowhere, and then I honestly, by the end of the first season, you just okay, everybody's going to die at some point. I'm okay with it. It's not like Game of Thrones where you really hold on to somebody, but it's still captivating.
Sorry,
You were saying?
Yeah.
Are you taking notes too?
No, I was in the middle of a large yawn. Don't take that
I'm
personally.
sorry.
Yeah. What I wanted to ask you about, though, is I've watched maybe the first 2 or 3 episodes of the first season of Attack on Titan because they were on Netflix.
Okay.
Had a hard time getting into it, like the imaginative scope of it, where these, giant, fleshy, humanoid creatures and this crew of defenders that defend this walled-in city. Like the concept, but just had a hard time latching on and getting sucked in. Is there a point in that series that you can recall that you get to this point and then you're smooth sailing, like you're hooked in really well?
Well, hold on a second. I got to go back and I got to take a look at the episode list real quick to see where you got into. And by the time they get into the 3rd episode, they're kids when the series starts, to explain to listeners. When shit hits the fan, they're children, and by the 3rd episode, they're a little bit older, and they're into the boot camp for the army that's supposed to defend everybody, right? And when I got to that episode, and by the time I got done with that episode, I was kind of annoyed because I thought the rest of the first season was just going to be about them in boot camp and like, the training that they did, and we're going to bond and we're going to develop all the characters and everything like that. But it wasn't. They spent 1 episode about them being in boot camp, or maybe 2 episodes, and then the rest is them out and then dealing with more shit that's hitting the fan. And it stays pretty compelling throughout. So if you can push through that, if I'm looking here, if you can get to the 5th episode, so if you can, once you end the 4th episode, then the 5th episode is where things pick up again. And then it just keeps going, and it's good. And it kind of keeps one-upping itself. And it kind of keeps changing the rules, and it keeps changing the pace of things. The pace goes up and down, so it doesn't really, it's like any TV show. But they keep changing the rules, and I think that's what is worth watching for it. Not to mention, it's kind of creepy, and that's kind of what draws me to it. The idea that they're these humanoid giants walking the earth and then eating people, and they come from nowhere. So there's a mythology and a mystery there that's getting me too, and I want to get to the end of that.
Oh, yeah, and those creatures they're super creepy and legitimately unsettling in how they utilize them in the show.
Absolutely. And seeing the trailer for the 2nd season, it kind of keeps one-upping that, like I said, and it's a little bit more unsettling each time. So I think try to get to the 4th episode. It's on Netflix. You shouldn't have a problem watching it. I recommend watching it with English subtitles instead of the dub, because I have issue when it comes to these kinds of shows with the dubs sometimes. And there are very few shows that I will watch with the dub over the subtitles, because I think when you're watching something, and I say this for anything outside of the English language, when it comes to watching something, because when it's the original actors doing it, they're going to have a better understanding of the language and the emotion behind their characters and what they're doing. And although translation can get us really close to what the original intent was, it's not going to be perfect. So I like hearing the original actor's voice, or, like even if it's like a French movie, I'll go subtitles over dub, just because it tracks better and it follows up better.
It's more pure.
Yeah. Yeah, and real quick, the only anime, though, that I'll watch in the original dub is Dragon Ball Z, because that's absolutely what I grew up with, and you can't change that. And the other one is... Oh, crap, I'm spacing. Oh, Cowboy Bebop. Classic anime. It's great. It's a really good show.
Well,
But
all right.
that was my TV and movies for the week.
Really having that pretension shine through.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, man.
Should we do a quick YouTube roundup and then move on to Oh Hello? Because I know we are getting close to time here.
Yes, we are. And if I may, with the YouTube, because there's nothing really that I want to spend time on when it comes to talking about YouTube. Or not a whole lot of time, I should say, because a lot of my YouTube in the last week was actually just kind of these original recordings in odd locations for artists. So like I said in the last episode that we recorded, Dispatch apparently has been making not necessarily a comeback, I would say, but they're they're back together, they're making music, and they're going forward with their career. So I found some newer clips online of them playing their songs that I wanted to hear their take on. Because sometimes if you look at like Mahogany sessions or Cologne sessions, those are really good recordings of artists. And you've got Hosier in there. There's one of my favorite artists last year, Julian Baker's on there, Dispatch is on there, and it's pretty good. So I have been watching a few of those just kind of as I work. So they've been on in the background. The other things that I have watched, I watched the Brigsy Bear trailer.
Oh, yep.
And I'm absolutely captivated by that. I want to see that movie because I love seeing Mark Hamill in really odd roles, like the role he played in The Kingsman, the Secret Service movie, and in this one. So I can't wait for that movie to come out. To prepare for Oh Hello, I watched Nick Kroll and John Mulaney do their monologue for the Spirit Awards again, which I think is very fantastic.
Very
and
good.
then because I was on Reddit looking at certain things, I watched a news report. I think it's a guy in New York or Chicago, somewhere where there's a subway. And there are these two guys kicking the shit out of another guy. And this kid with a ponytail comes in with a katana and gets everybody to back off. So It's a news segment about this kid with a katana. And just kind of how he thinks. And I'll send you the video. And it's just, the kid's a gem. And I'm glad he's in the world. I'm glad he stopped, a guy getting his ass kicked. But do you need to carry a katana around in the real world? And do you really think it was the deterrent of a subway attacking?
Well, it's funny.
Or do you think they were just so taken back by it that it's like, I'm done with this?
It's funny you mention this because I heard a similar story on a different podcast that I was listening to today, The Boogie Monster with Kyle Kinane and Dave Stone. And the latter half of that duo, Dave Stone, is a comedian who lives out of a van in Los Angeles, and they always start the podcast about talking to, any stories from living in the van, and he has all these different spots that he parks the van overnight. And he was saying that he was somewhere this past week and he heard a bunch of noise outside where he had parked his van, and he saw these two younger guys, I don't know what they were doing exactly, but he said they were trashing something because he just kept hearing these loud bangs, and he was just kind of fed up with it. So apparently he keeps a bat in his van, and he just opened the door and stood up, kind of beefed himself up, kind of what they say you're supposed to do.
You do some push-ups.
Well, no, but what they say you're supposed to do, make yourself big when a bear attacks you or something. You're supposed to try and make yourself as big, and so kind of did that and just just stood up, kind of almost slow motion-esque out of the van with the bat in hand and just kind of stared him down, and then ran away.
Yeah, bats are pretty intimidating, especially when they cover solar panels in the Antarctic. You know, you just gotta look out for it.
You never know what might happen.
Just so we are quick on time, briefly mentioning a video where a guy buys a rusty knife for $1 and then cleans it up so it's sharp again. But it's really not that impressive because he's got like $500 worth of sharpening equipment at his house. So you too can, save an old rusty knife for $501. You know?
What a great life hack.
Oh, I know, right? Just absolutely incredible. You should have seen it after it was done. It was pristine. I watched about half. I got through a solid half of the first episode of the Mighty Ducks animated series, and I didn't continue because I didn't want to, and I had to work. But it was still kind of fun to watch.
Can I just say too, listeners, if you're not aware, there's a Mighty Ducks animated series about alien ducks that come play hockey on Earth, and it is the weirdest fucking thing that possibly existed. And I need to look it up on Wikipedia sometimes just to make sure I didn't imagine it.
And that's why I wanted to watch it, because that's exactly what you said to me. And I think the craziest thing about this Mighty Ducks episode is that the whole premise is about, like you said, alien ducks that go to Earth. And they start a hockey team, and everyone on Earth is just okay with it.
Yes.
Oh, alien ducks want to come play hockey? Fuck it, fine.
No.
But the thing is, too, that there are news reports about duck-looking creatures stopping crime, and nobody's making the connection.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah. There's a cop that's on him, right, trying to figure out, like, oh, man, it's like, oh, the ducks who are vigilantes must be the ducks that are playing hockey. And for some reason, he has to get concrete evidence or something like that. I mean, like, Bruce Wayne shows up from being away forever, and then all of a sudden Batman's in town. There's a bit of disbelief. You still have to connect some dots.
Yes.
To make sure that those things are, like that Bruce Wayne is Batman. But, like, they're fucking ducks.
Right.
There's nothing else on the planet that's like them. How can you not make that connection? Why is everybody on that Earth so stupid? I just don't know.
Yeah, they never really got the resolution that they deserved out of that series to answer all our questions.
We should fight for a Netflix revival
of the Mighty
I think
Ducks.
that's what everybody needs right now. There was also a trailer for something called Sega Forever, where Sega is now releasing its classic retro games for your handheld devices. I went ahead and downloaded a couple, but it's not that great, because even though the games are free, there's still a shitload of ads that come with it, so it's just not worth it. Stay away from it.
I heard it's only $2 to buy the paid version, though.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still $2.
Oh, okay.
I've got all the Sonic games that I need. I'm good. I'm set.
All right.
And then the last thing that I want to talk about with you.
Yes. Are we going to talk about this?
Well, it's two things, real quick.
Okay.
It's something called Lessons from the Screenplay. And there's a couple of YouTubers out there that do these really cool video essays on a bunch of different things. My favorite by far is Captain Christian, which is with Captain K, Christian K also. And they dive deep into things. One is about Independence Day and how that movie works so well, despite, for the most part, being really stupid. But it's still a very great, engaging blockbuster that holds up over time. And then the second was from Sinfix, The Art of the Scene, and that was about Speed's bus jump. And that didn't go so much into the physics of the actual bus jump, but it actually went into the psychology behind how the movie sets up a likable pair or duo between Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves, that you like them so much that your mind will automatically not care that a bus just jumped like 100 feet or something like that for no reason at all. like our brains suspend physics easier when we care about the characters more. And it dove deep into that, and it used speed as a specific example, and it did a really great job of it. And I highly recommend diving into those a little bit more.
How much do you think our listeners can suspend their disbelief, and how far can we push what happens on this podcast because of it?
I think we need to be on iTunes first.
Before we can answer that question? All right.
Before we can answer that question. I think it's too soon.
Okay. We won't push our boundaries quite yet.
Yeah. But what about you? What was your YouTube like?
Okay, I had a lot of stuff, as I'm always surprised when I compile this list. So let me just run through. I'm going to run through it all. I got a fair amount of trailers. I got a fair amount of other stuff. I'm just going to run through it all. If there's anything we need to stop on, let me know. But I'm just going to power through it because we got to get to Oh Hello here. So,
yeah,
honest trailers for Crash Bandicoot and the Despicable Me franchise. Some animations of My Brother and Me bits. Also, they went to E3, the three of them, for Polygon, which was a pretty funny video. Seth Meyers had Amy Poehler on, and they brought back their Really segment to talk about the Julius Caesar performance in Shakespeare in the Park, or whatever it is, in New York. That got all this uproar because the guy kind of looked like Trump. I watched a trailer for the new Power Rangers series that didn't have any sound for some reason because it was kind of bootlegged. Two Conan...
Well done.
Yeah, thank you. Two Conan clips. He had a Clueless Gamer with Will Arnett where they played ARMS, which was very funny. And Will Ferrell was on, and I wish I could remember the name of the song, but he said he was dressed with a tiger face paint, claiming that he had just come from a kid's birthday party, and he had promised the kid that he would sing him a song. So he started singing this song on Conan, and he said, "I'm going to sing this whole song, Conan. Don't interrupt me." And it's like a 7-minute long clip where they keep showing different parts of the show where Will Ferrell is just continuing to sing this song, even though the rest of the show has moved on. Arcade Fire has another new music video out, this one called Creature Comfort. The song itself I don't like as much as Everything Now. It's still a pretty good song, and I think it'll probably sound great in the context of the whole album when it comes out. But the music video is very cool because they did it in the style of the old pop-up video from the 90s. And
pop-up video.
Most of their facts are fake, so it was very entertaining.
Ooh. Very nice.
On the trailer front, I watched, Thank You for Your Service, which is a PTSD movie starring Miles Teller that's going to come out later this year. I watched the Wet Hot American Summer 10 Years Later trailer about 100 times in the past week. I just kept rewatching it. And then I went and watched the First Day of Camp trailer a bunch of times. I watched I Do Until I Don't, which is Lake Bell's new movie, which honestly doesn't look all that interesting, but it's her and Ed Helms and Paul Reiser's in it, Wyatt Cenac, and I don't really understand the concept, but it's something about a bunch of different married couples who are kind of in rough patches in their marriages, and then someone comes in under the guise of trying to help them, but really just makes things worse.
Huh.
Let's see.
Okay. Hey, how did you feel about Wet Hot American Summer First Day of Camp?
I liked it. I liked it a lot. I've rewatched it several times since it came out 2 years ago.
Got it. That was 2 years ago already?
Yeah.
Shit. I need to get through it.
Oh, have you not watched? Oh, Brian, it's so good.
I haven't watched all of it. I've watched the first couple episodes, but I haven't watched all of it, no.
Yeah, try and find some time to power through it, because it is, if you like the movie, I think you like the series, and they make some great cast additions, and the jokes are very on point.
Got it. Okay. Continue.
Last couple of trailers then. The Foreigner, starring Jackie Chan and Pierce Brosnan. So if you've ever wanted to see those two in a movie together.
Not really, but I'm interested.
Jackie Chan plays a I guess, a Chinese man who lives in London whose daughter is killed in a bombing that was perpetrated by the IRA,
Pierce.
I guess, or whatever, the Northern Ireland radicals. And Pierce Brosnan used to work for them, and Jackie Chan starts hounding Pierce Brosnan to help him figure out who carried out this bombing so he can enact revenge. So it doesn't look great, but it looks kind of fun to see those two in a movie together. And then
I saw that, and I made note to watch the trailer later. So I'm gonna make a note of that.
yeah, give it a look. See, it looks like Jackie Chan, from an acting perspective, is trying to do a little bit something different, even though they're still trying to bank off his kung fu stunt skills.
That's gonna kill him soon.
Yeah, right. And then
Like we're past the that's gonna kill Jackie Chan one day, and we're into that's gonna kill Jackie Chan tomorrow.
probably, yeah. And then last two things, I watched a trailer for an anime too, but this was Digimon Tri, which is the revival of the original Digimon series that's only available in Japanese right now. But they're coming out as 6 kind of mini movies, or like 80-minute long movies that then they divide up into episodic chunks. And so the 5th part of that movie saga, they had a trailer for, so I watched that. And then this thing called Star Wars Forces of Destiny, which is short animated clips that they're putting out ahead of a new merchandising line that focuses on the female characters of the Star Wars universe.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, very cool.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Should we talk a little bit about Oh Hello before we wrap up here?
Yes, and boy, do I have some notes for this.
Well,
This
please
for
go.
Oh Hello. I started off not liking it as much. I was worried for some reason. It wasn't until about. Well, no, I've got a note here that says 12 minutes in. I don't know if I can handle this, but I also still like it. And I don't know. I think I like them more in an improvised role than I do in their scripted role for the Broadway. Because one of my favorite interactions with Gil and George is for the Y95 interview in New York at a YMCA. And I think that was, to me, one of the best bits of their comedy, because they did an entire interview unscripted and just off the top of their heads in these characters. So to see them so structured as far as a script goes was a little bit weird until they actually started getting into the play aspect of it and then jumping into that play.
See, I mean, I'm a little bit different where I liked it from start to finish. I'll agree with you that at the beginning I was a little unsure of where exactly things were going, because the only thing you ever see is the too much tuna clips, and you're starting to watch and you're like, oh, this isn't too much tuna, so I don't really know how to react to what I'm watching. But I think it finds its groove pretty quick, and I kind of was able to let that go and see where they were going to take things pretty quickly. And I liked where they took them. I thought, you know, it's the challenge with anything that is based on sketch comedy that you try and draw out to long form. It's the reason that SNL in the 90s tried to make so many movies out of characters and had very few that were actually successful. Because it's a hard thing to do when something is supposed to be in a short form comedy, to give them the depth and to not let their shtick wear thin over the course of however long you need it to last, 90 minutes, let's say. It's a hard thing to do. And I think you could tell with this that this is something that they put a hell of a lot of thought into. You know, this wasn't something that they slapped together just because they thought it would be fun. They put a lot of thought into this and how they were going to pull it off. And I think you could see that in every aspect of it. From the script writing to the way things were choreographed to the way the sets were designed and utilized. They just want to make sure everything was working and serving as something that was going to be enjoyable to the audience.
Yeah, and I think they did such a great job. Well, I don't know if they have fallen into those characters. They fell into those characters so quickly with the Too Much Tuna clips, and they continued it from there. They just became them very quickly. They didn't have any problems creating their personas or what the characters were interested in. So I think that's what makes this Broadway show so successful, and I think that's why they're so popular, is because they do have that depth, because I think it's just very natural for Nick Kroll and John Mulaney to do that. And because they're such great comedians that they're able to sustain it very quickly as well. I think if you told Mike Myers to be Wayne from Wayne's World for an entire day, I think there would be moments where that'd be kind of difficult. Okay, hold on.
I was going to say, this is a really, really bad example, Brian.
Okay, hold on. If you told Tim Meadows to be the ladies' man for a day, I think there would be situations that he'd...
Still a bad example.
Damn it. If you told... Wait for it.
Okay.
Yeah, I got nothing. Son of a bitch. If you told a Bobby Moynihan character to be a Bobby Moynihan character for an entire day...
If you told Bobby Moynihan to be drunk uncle...
then you'd run into problems.
For a day. I'm trying to help you here, Brian.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give you something to run with.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, geez. I think one of my favorite lines, though, from the play was how John Mulaney talked about how he wrote a 1,000-page story about a train ride told from the perspective of 100 different people. And how shitty that sounds. It was perfect.
And
then Steve Martin was phenomenal.
Oh yeah, Steve's like perfect choice for someone that you want to have on there who's going to roll with things, who can carry their own weight, and be appealing to the audience at large. I think just going back to something you were saying about how easily they fall into those roles. I don't think I have ever seen John Mulaney so comfortable as a performer as I have in this special. And on the same token, I don't think I have liked Nick Kroll as much as I like him here in anything that I've seen him in. Because I think just, John Mulaney, which is not to take anything away from John Mulaney because he's a fantastic, fantastic stand-up comedian. But there's something about this role that he just lives in and is comes from such something that is such a part of him in ways I can't even describe very well, that he just is so comfortable doing what he is doing up there. And it comes through in a way that I don't typically see of most performers in general.
Yeah, and it's honestly almost like he's channeling a former past life.
Yes.
Like he used to be an old Jewish guy from the Upper West Side, and it's just coming through again like in The Mummy Returns.
Or it's
so natural.
Yeah, it's almost like for him at least, it's like the opposite of what you're saying a little bit. You're saying past life. I'm almost saying like this is who he aspires to be. Like he just wants to jump to this part of his life. Like and he's ready to live there like that.
Oh man, that'd be something else.
Yeah. But I think thumbs up for me. Definitely take the time to watch it. It's a
absolutely.
little less than an hour and a half, or a little more than an hour and a half, I guess, but well worth your time. It's gonna make you laugh like you probably haven't laughed in a while.
Pretty good. Two notes I want to wrap up on with this personally. The first is the giant tuna monster that they have at the end or near the end was legitimately terrifying.
Yes.
Holy shit.
That was very
I might have a nightmare
surprising.
about that.
It's one of these things where you're like, I can't believe they're actually doing this.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And then the second one is I have a very distinct note here in that there was a close-up shot on Steve Martin. And I don't know if I've seen Steve Martin in a while in any kind of like picture or anything like that. But I just wrote, Steve Martin has an old calming face. And I think the idea behind it, I was like, yeah, he's got a really good like grandfather face where it's just kind of like warm and welcoming, and you know he can break bad news for you, but you know you're gonna get a hug later or something like that.
Can we put that on a T-shirt? Can that be our first T-shirt, Brian? Can we make
Yes, it can.
Can we make Steve Martin's face like the way the Chive uses Bill Murray's face? Like, can we just start using Steve Martin?
I don't see why not. Nobody else is doing it.
Right? We'll make little polo shirts where it's him, where our guy is like the Ralph Lauren polo guy, except it's Steve Martin in his old stand-up suit with the arrow through his head and a banjo.
I think if we could get a letter jacket of that,
Ooh.
where he's on the back, and then the front just says SM, we're set.
I love it.
We just need to work on a color scheme, and we're good to go.
We'll talk about that offline. Yes, definitely.
All right, fair enough.
Cool. Well, quickly then, next week, well, we're going to take a short break, but I don't know if that's even going to affect how these episodes come out, but, you know, just to give you guys a little inside baseball scoop, coming up on the 4th of July, we're gonna enjoy that holiday on our own. We hope you do too, even though this will come out after that. So we hope you did enjoy it. And we're going to be watching Glow, right, Brian?
That is correct. Not just a little bit of Glow either. We're going to watch all of Glow.
We are going to give it our best shot.
We're going on a 2-week break here for us. So that's plenty of time to watch the gorgeous ladies of wrestling.
Yes. Little Alison Brie, little Mark Maron, and some other actors who I'm excited to discover.
I am excited to see Mark Maron in something that, like, I respect Mark Maron. I haven't heard a whole lot of his stuff. I haven't gone into his show. I haven't listened to his podcast. So I'm hoping this is like my Mark Maron thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I kind of am hoping that too. My friend has told me that I would like his stand-up, so I want to get into that at some point. But I'm hoping this is going to be my gateway. Because I've tried having his podcast be my gateway, and that has not worked yet. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Okay. The other thing that Chris and I are going to watch while we are going through the 4th of July festivities is Baby Driver, the new film written and directed by Edgar Wright, which is very exciting. I've been looking to watch this for a good month and a half now.
Yeah,
and it comes out this week.
I'm very much looking forward to it. And the reviews, from what I've seen so far, have been stellar. So we will have our own take on it the next time we convene the podcast.
Oh, you good?
Oh boy, Brian's getting sleepy.
Excuse me. I am getting sleepy.
Little last piece before we go. We wanted to try doing something a little bit new at the end of the show where we talk a lot about stuff we've watched, things we like that we watched. But, you know, we're not just one-dimensional guys. We have interests outside of what's on our screens. And so we wanted to provide a little non-watch recommendation. So something that you don't need to watch, but something you still might enjoy. Brian, do you want to kick us off on this?
Yeah. I got a library card because the Bozeman Library is beautiful. And it's a very pretty building.
You seem very proud of this library card.
I am. Yeah, I haven't had a library card since I think it was 10. Not to mention, it helps save some money, just because, libraries.
I feel like I should get a library card, too. Madison has some nice libraries.
Yeah, do it, man. And the first book that I got from the library was Ray Bradbury's Something Wicked Comes This Way. And honestly, the book didn't really get me, and I kind of took it back. I didn't finish it. Someone gave me the advice.
Brian, hang on one sec. Do you need me to re-explain the purpose of this segment to you, or?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay,
I'm getting there. Somebody explained to me or told me that you shouldn't, if a book's not getting you and grabbing you in, you shouldn't force yourself to read the whole thing. And I wish I had taken that to heart with a few books that I've read in the last couple of years. So instead, I decided to finally take the book back. something wicked comes this way and pick up something that I knew I was looking to read, and that is Caliban's War by James S.A. Corey. And that is part of the Expanse series, which has been a show on Sci-Fi for 2 seasons now, but that comes from this series of books, which I cannot recommend enough if you're a sci-fi fan. It is an absolute blast. It's very well written, it's very engaging, and it really builds a great, cool universe. So that is my recommendation that is non-watch related.
Nice. And I know you've told me great things about The Expanse, and that's something I am going to get into one of these days. I am also going to recommend a book. It is called The Last Policeman by Ben H. Winters. It's the first part in a trilogy. I like books that are part of a series or a trilogy of some sort, so I can get to know the characters over a couple different books. This is the first book. It's about a policeman in kind of the northeast part of the country. I believe it's Connecticut or somewhere around those parts. And the premise of the book is that a giant asteroid is coming for Earth, and there is no escape. And we know exactly when it's going to get there, and we know there's nothing we can do about it. And what happens when you're in the role of a policeman when you know that the world is going to end, and what crimes matter, and what, the premise of this book is that they stumble across a suicide that the main character believes is a murder, and how do you get people to care about that when the world is going to end? And it kind of kicks off this trilogy of books that explores these different themes about how we might handle ourselves given these situations. And very well written, fun detective tropes with a post-apocalyptic or really pre-apocalyptic bent to it.
I am excited to talk about that further with you.
Yes. But
sorry for a number of reasons, and we'll get into those later.
Fair enough. But for now, I think we need to sign off. Please remember to review, rate, and subscribe. Review, rate, and subscribe. Review and rate. I was like, wait, review and rate, are those the same thing? No, because you need to write a review, and you can just rate by giving us stars on iTunes. And let us know what you think of our new...
I think it's star, share, and subscribe.
Could be.
Because then you get the alliteration aspect of it. Star, share, subscribe.
Yeah, that too. Do all these things.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And remember to email us, eyesonbrainsoffpod@gmail.com. We're going to be incorporating those at some point when we figure out how to control how long these things take to record. Because once again, we are well over. But until then...
We'll hit our mark one day.
One of these days, we'll get it back down to size. But until that time, I have been Chris.
I have been Brian.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.